Welcome, everybody. We'll get started after a little while after noon, a couple minutes after noon. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the town hall. We're giving people some time to get here.
All right, everybody. We do still have a lot of people streaming in, 340 as of this moment. We'll have a couple more trickling in, obviously. So we'll sit tight, probably look to get started a couple minutes after the hour. All right, we're up over 700 attendees. We'll give it another minute or two.
That participant ticker is just going up and up.
We just reached capacity. I don't know what that looks like for folks trying to get in still, but for participants or attendees, I guess if you're hearing from anybody trying to get in, they're going to have to go to the YouTube since we've reached the cap of 1,000. And yay.
And just as we're getting started here, we've had a few questions about this. This is a Zoom webinar, so your video and all of that is off. So that's just the function of Zoom webinar. We'll cover kind of like how to ask questions and stuff a little more in a minute, but the Q&A is open, but your video and audio are off by default.
Should we get going then since we've hit capacity?
All right, let's get moving. So welcome, everyone. We're here today to give you an update from bargaining and to talk about our next steps, both for your negotiators and also what we're asking from all of you. Because we have so many people today, we are using the Zoom webinar. That means you can't see how many people are here, but there are 1,000 here. And those that, because we've reached capacity on this webinar, others are joining us through the YouTube live stream. Just a heads up, we have reactions turned off because reactions unfortunately create a screen reader problem. And we also have the Q&A open. So just like last time, we will likely get far too many questions to answer. We will try to answer as many as we can. But if you need an answer you don't get today, please reach out to your regional negotiator or your business agent. And then we'll start with updates, talk next steps, and then take some questions before we wrap up. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Adam.
Yeah, thank you. So just for all of you, my name is Adam Novotny. I work for the Department of Corrections. I am one of your negotiations committee co-chairs. Sounds like we do have a couple hundred people on the YouTube stream as well. So great turnout. Really happy to see it. Give you folks a brief update as to what's been going on with our process. We have been working with MMB for 8 long days. Our team has been working well beyond that to make sure that we are bringing language and fixes to management for the better membership, better contract to strengthen our union. We have reached compromise tentative agreements with the management team on 2 of our proposals thus far. The 2 of those are the definition of family language that we had brought. We adjusted that slightly, but the intent of the language will still be the same. And the second piece that has been agreed upon is moving the student loan pilot into the body of the contract so that it is memorialized and there is no longer any threat of a sunset date on that pilot program. So at this point, it is no longer a pilot. So we really wanted to make sure that agencies had the benefit of being able to predict whether it would exist and the foresight to be able to budget for that as a very meaningful recruitment and retention tool for them. That is where we're at. We've not made a ton of other language gains thus far. We continue to be engaged in the conversations with the management team around those, looking for fixes. And such as negotiations, it is often a slog. I think why people are really here is the across the board increases. We started with a across the board increase ask of 11% and 10%, 11 in the first year, 10 in the second year. Our team thought that was really meaningful in light of a historic budget paired with historic inflation and the fact that our buying power has really been diminished over the course of the last couple of years, even contract cycles beyond that, and that, for the state to be a meaningful employer and to have the recruitment and retention tools that they want, this does really work to modernize our pay grids. The management team started their opening offer at 2% in the first year and 1.5% in the second year. Our team made some strategic decisions around when we announced what our across the board increase would be, which we made to the governor and the management team back in April so that they could work into their budgets what we were asking for and to make a real competitive offer. What we found is my days are now a little wonky, but I think it was Tuesday last week, which was the first day we met with management. They made a wage proposal of the 2 and 1.5 at about 9 o'clock on the first day, which gave them a significant amount of time to alter and up that offer. And they did not. They stalled out. They did not make a second wage proposal. Our team decided at that point that it was important that we show our willingness to move and negotiate with the management team, which is what we did. we adjusted our ask to 10% the first year, 10% the second year, and we're willing to compromise if they accepted that on some of our other financial proposals, showing that the most meaningful thing for us and our membership is going to be a robust across the board increase. The management team did not bite on said proposal and failed to provide any feedback and just kind of left their economic package where it was. So in light of all that, I think that's why a lot of us are here today to talk about, one, how we felt about that offer and that opening offer remaining on the table for the better part of 2 days. The fact that that offer did not need to be insulting and low and stay there, and what we're going to do about it at this point. We certainly, as MAPE members and state government employees, we deserve better. And we think that's why people are here today. So we're going to walk through kind of what our next steps are along our escalation campaign up until push week and beyond if necessary. So Kristen will kind of walk us through that now.
Yeah, so what's next, right? So our next meeting with MMB is now June 20th. It's what we call push week. So we will stay in bargaining all week as long as we need to try and get a fair contract. However, between now and then, we need you to take some action and to prepare. So first, if you haven't done so, reach out to the governor via the online contact form or his phone number. So on mn.gov, when you go to the governor's office, there's the form there, the online contact form. You can do it that way, or you can call his office. Let him know your thoughts on MMB's wage proposal and our negotiations. Ask him to support his workers. Second, there are actions still going on in many agencies and regions, petitions, delegations, letter writing campaigns. If you haven't joined one, check in with your local leaders and find out if there's anything planned in your region. Feel free to bring ideas to your local as well. Third, respond to your negotiator if they reach out to you. Negotiators are going to need to be in regular contact with you guys throughout this month and through push week to understand what good enough looks like, what not good enough looks like as far as wage increases, and they may be asking for your feedback, and they may be asking you to take action. Be ready to respond. And also remember, they are likely to be in contact with hundreds of members. So give them a little grace and patience if they're not getting back to you right away. And finally, people have started to bring questions about whether a strike is possible. We are hopeful that the governor, agencies, and MMB are hearing from us and that they will come to push week with a different approach and a better deal for all of us. However, strike is our most powerful tool. So we are going to be holding some informational sessions for our leaders and members starting next week on what it means to strike, what a strike would entail, and how and when the membership would make that decision of when to strike. We are not, let me reiterate, we are not at that point yet, but we are at a point where we need to learn about our options and prepare just in case. So details will be sent out shortly via email. We're going to hold some virtual Zoom trainings June 6th or 7th for member leaders. These will be in the evening, 5 to 7-ish. And then June 13th to the 15th for members, for all members from 5 to 6 p.m. So we'll send out details about that shortly. And then I'm going to pass it over to Megan, our awesome statewide president.
Thanks, Kristen. All right. Well, in the spirit of today's town hall, I want to echo a lot of what Kristen and Adam have already said and offer some further thoughts on our current standing. And Kristen said it was my job to rile up the masses. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So a lot of you are keenly aware, and Kristen and Adam have just walked through it, but our journey through these negotiations, this round of bargaining, has not necessarily been a walk in the park. In fact, it has been more of an uphill climb for me anyway, on a mountain in the winter and without any ski poles. It's been pretty challenging. It's been tough this time around. And I think there's times where I know I have, and maybe our team has as well, thought that we maybe weren't going to make it to the top. But I keep trying to remember and remind myself that this is also the exciting part where we get to prove our power. And I think the destination that we're aiming for at the end of this journey is well worth the effort that we're putting in. So I have served the state for more than a decade now, and I want to share a bit of that personal journey with you today. Since I've been with the state, I have witnessed our benefits and our purchasing power slowly erode with each new contract over that entire decade. I've watched as our compensation continually fails to keep up with the increasing cost of living. And it's a really disheartening trend. And frankly, I am tired of it. I bet many of you are too. That's why you're here today, because we are collectively ready to turn the tide. We are not asking for handouts or special treatment from the employer. We are simply asking for fair compensation that acknowledges our value, our skills, and our dedication to public service. Many of us have been with the state for a very long time. So our counter proposal, which was a robust 10% increase for each year, really stands in stark contrast to where they left us at 2% and a 1.5% raise, which is lower than we got in the middle of a pandemic last time. That kind of offer barely makes a dent in the cost of living that we all face. And as it stands, I think their offer is more symbolic than substantive, which really today brings me to the heart of our mission. Our fight in this is about so much more than just numbers. It's about the value of our work as state employees. It's about the importance of the services that we provide. It's about the respect we deserve as dedicated public employees. It's about acknowledging our collective commitment to the state of Minnesota and all of the communities that we serve, those 5.7 million people who live here. So we've been reaching out in numerous ways to make sure our voices are heard. Our contact with Governor Walz that Kristen walked you through, or maybe it was Adam, I don't remember now, one of them. It's just one of the methods that we're using to express our concern, but also assert our rights in this process. In addition, we're doing these town halls where you are today. We're preparing for potential action, and we are maintaining open channels of communication with all of you. I think all of us, the team included, hope that it won't come to a strike. But as they say, you have to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So we need to be ready for every eventuality, while at the same time, I think, doing our utmost to achieve the best results possible. So these are undoubtedly serious times, both within this process and with all that's going on around us. And it is essential for us in this process to maintain perspective. The current struggles that we have in front of us are temporary, but the benefits that we're fighting for will have a lasting impact on all of us for the rest of our state career and on the future generations of MAPE members that come after us. Our unity in this process, our determination, our solidarity, these are the strengths that will carry us through the toughest challenges ahead of us. We might face hurdles, we surely will face hurdles, right? But we can clear them together because that's who we are and that's what we do. We are not just negotiating for better wages, right? We are advocating for our rights as employees. We are making a stand for fair treatment and respect for the invaluable services we provide every single day. We are fighting for the quality of our lives and the lives of those we serve also. So as we continue down this journey into Push Week, into the summer, into the hot 90-degree weather that's coming at us today, I want us to remember that our strength comes not from individual actions, but from collective effort and each of the individual actions that play into that collective effort. In unity, there's strength. In solidarity, there's power. In action, there's change. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and it won't be easy for the team and for members alike. But remember this, we are not alone. That's the whole point of a union. We are part of a great and powerful union. We stand together and we stand strong, and together we will achieve our goal. So I'm going to hand it back over, but thank you all for your unwavering commitment, the 1,000 of you that are here and the many more hundreds that are over on YouTube. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And in this race, it's not about who runs the fastest, but it's about who stands the strongest. And I've never seen a stronger union. All right, that's it.
Woohoo. Thank you, Megan. So we're going to answer some questions. Pete, did you want to read some off here?
Sure. I've gathered we've gotten over 50 already. So just to name that again, that we won't get to all your questions, but we're kind of categorizing the common ones. And if you have a question that doesn't get answered, feel free to reach out to your business agent or your negotiator, and we'll help get answers. So Kristen, we just wanted to start off. A few people asked just that the action steps be repeated. So I'm wondering if you can just walk through those again slowly for people who are maybe multitasking or like, oh, action steps now. So could you just name those again?
Yep. So the first one is contacting the governor. So reach out via the contact form on his website or his phone number directly to let him know your thoughts on MMB's wage proposal and the junk that it is, right? Second, there are actions going around in your regions and in agencies. So there's petitions, there's letter writing campaigns. If you haven't joined one or you want to know if something's going on, check in with your local leaders and find out if there's anything planned in your region. And also, if you have an idea, bring it forward to your local leaders or your CATs. Third, respond to your negotiator if they reach out to you. So negotiators, we're going to be in regular contact with membership through this month and through Push Week. We want to get an understanding of what good enough looks like, what not good enough looks like. So when negotiators reach out, please respond. They may be asking for your feedback. They may be asking you to take some action. So be ready. And also remember that we have a lot of things going on. So a little grace and patience is welcome. And then the last thing we had talked about was bringing up questions about the strike. We are going to be holding some virtual Zoom strike trainings next week and the following week. So watch your email for those.
Thanks. And so there was a couple, there's been some conversations about, if we were having discussion strike, people immediately sort of started having some questions about strike. And I think maybe you want to back this up, but that is what the information sessions, the trainings are about, is answering those questions and getting in conversation. So we're preparing that to be ready for those questions. Is anybody else want to say anything on that before? It's just because we're not going to be able to answer every question on people's concerns on that today.
I want to. I think it's really important to say at this point that strike is not the end goal. The end goal is a fair contract for our membership, and the strike, not the strike, as though it is a matter of course. A strike is a tool to that end. It is not what we are driving for. We certainly think with Governor Walz and their team and the budget where it is, that we can come to a fair deal and avoid that. And we want to be prepared if that is, where we feel we need to go. So there's a possibility that we settle a great deal on June 21st, and we can all go home and celebrate together. There's also a possibility that they remain stuck at a wage that we think is too low. And we want to make sure that we have options on the table to further escalate. So I think it's important to note that it's certainly not an inevitability. There are a lot of off ramps for them ahead of such a real action at the end of this. And I also think it's important that we hear from folks, and we want your feedback so that we are making informed decisions on what membership is and is not willing to do and act upon. But there are a lot, there's a lot between now and getting down that road. And also this negotiations team does not make that decision. That decision is a member vote. to approve or deny any agreement that is made with management as to whether we accept their final offer or not. So we don't make that decision independently. We all collectively make that decision. But certainly, there is a lot of reason to believe that we should not get down that road, but we want to be prepared for it if we do.
Thanks. So we got a few other questions here that came up quite a bit. So one is a lot of people have asked why in the time of why do we think that their opening offer is so low? Like, what do we think is going on? And that may be getting inside of their head. So, it's certainly maybe not answerable, but enough people asked that they wanted to throw it to you all. But like, why do we think they're starting so low? Given people are naming the increases that have been recommended for the executive branch by the commission and all that kind of stuff. So just wanted people to speak to like, what do we think is going on there? Is it normal? That kind of thing.
And I'm going to take that, or I can start it at least.
Have at it.
Okay. So it's normal for the boss to want to give you the least amount they can give you, right? Or the least amount that they're saying, whatever. But that's part of the negotiations game a little bit. They start low, we start high, they start low. What's telling in the last two sessions of bargaining was that they didn't move from that. And that's not a normal occurrence. Typically they would come back and raise it a little bit because we lowered ours a little bit. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's usually what happens. We are assuming during push week that they are going to go up. What we have to consider is where that line is, that it is enough. And that's what we'll be communicating with you all as we go through this here. So the numbers they gave us were based around what they state they have in their operating budgets, their operating adjustments. So they're basing it on some numbers from their operating adjustments. But we all know how state budgets work for each agencies, so we know that the money is there to give us a fair wage increase.
Can I add on though that I think they also think that we're not going to talk to you all about it. Yeah. So that part is a little abnormal that we are engaging in this wide open bargaining process, which to me feels the most powerful. It does not feel powerful to sit behind a smoke screen and then just come out with an offer at the end. So I think what's different is that we are talking to all 16,000 of our members about what's going on at the bargaining table. And I suspect, because I feel like their wage offer is offensive, is awfully offensive. So I have to think that they probably don't assume that we will be talking to you all. And we will forever and always.
Thanks.
Yeah, I also think just one more, Pete. Wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we have tried to restructure the way we do things and restructure our own process, and they have not yet caught up to that. And I think this is a situation where this is negotiations as usual on their side of things, and we've tried to make it clear that that's not how we're trying to operate, and we like to operate a little bit more efficiently. And really, we discussed with our team a lot that they had a budget in place, fully in place when we met Tuesday, Wednesday last week. They had every ability to settle our contract then, and they chose not to. And I think they chose not to as it's just kind of a matter of course. We'll move a whole bunch during push week, again, which is just a week where our team is kind of, for lack of a better term, locked in the Department of Transportation training facility with the management team until we come to a deal for the week. So I think they've signaled that they are willing to move in push week, but I don't think they are aware that we are trying to play by a little bit different script, and we don't need a push week if we can just go ahead and settle things accordingly when we have all the information at our discretion. And our contention was that was actually last week. So any any delay on that is just an obtuse opposition.
Thanks. So we got some other questions kind of asking about, people have heard that we're in mediation now, and people are wondering what that means, and is it normal that it happened, and was it early or on kind of regular? So just anybody wants to just talk about what mediation is and what it means and what it's not.
I'll kick that one to Mike.
All right, thank you. I'm Mike Asmus. I'm the field director here on staff at MAPE. Mediation is a process where mediators come in from the Bureau of Mediation Services to try and facilitate the conversation and get to a settlement. Their job isn't necessarily to get the best settlement for workers or the best settlement for management. Their job is to cut a deal, period. And so the state initiated the process, requested mediators, and so now we have a couple of mediators that are part of it. We always have mediators as a part of our negotiations. It's normal that they would do it. And when we're talking about unlocking all of the tools that we have at our disposal, before we could ever legally strike, we have to go into mediation for at least 45 days anyway. So this is just another mechanism that unlocks that tool should we end up having to use something like that. But it's a normal part of the process. Their job is to get a settlement, not the best settlement for you all, not the best settlement for management, but a settlement, period. Did I miss anything?
I think as far as timing, it's about on par with where things have gone in the past. The employer opted to file for mediation, saying that they didn't think we were moving as fast as we should or could, and it was very much our position them because of us. And so, yeah, it's kind of a matter of course in these big labor unions that it gets to mediation. It's not necessarily an escalation one way or the other. It's just like it's another tool to make sure we get to a deal.
Thanks. Some folks have asked kind of like if AFSCME or other unions are in a similar position with their wage offers, if we coordinate with them. So for folks who don't know, could someone just kind of lay out how we work with other unions and which other unions are bargaining and that kind of thing?
I can do that. We start off bargaining with our own proposals. So in April, we opened with our own proposals that our team drafted and decided to bring forward. We bargain healthcare, so CGIP bargaining in coalition with a lot of other unions, and we do our best to stay in lockstep with them in terms of what we're aware of. But there's going to be different priorities for the different bargaining units. AFSCME and MAPE are the two biggest bargaining units. So a lot of the conversation is driven by those two bargaining units. But at push week, then it's just taken over by AFSCME and MAPE to kind of get it across the finish line. We don't have to end up with the same across the board increases as other bargaining units, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think that we ever have diverted from them. But the bargaining process along the way of those cost of living adjustments is up to both AFSCME and MAPE until we converge at push week. And I just heard that AFSCME is at the table today bargaining with MMB. So we will probably get an update when we see them. We also have healthcare bargaining again tomorrow and Friday. So we will probably get an update from those folks when we see them tomorrow. So it's kind of, there's some baton handing off, and we try to stay in solidarity with other labor unions. And we even have a proposal this time around that would bring us in parity with other unions that's specific to our corrections folks. So there's a lot of coordination, but that said, we can end up at different places at the end.
And just to name it, like we started publicly releasing our across the board much earlier than we have in the past, and so we were sort of earlier in that conversation than AFSCME was, and that is normally the case. So just so you know about why it's been discussed longer for us.
The other bargaining units, for the most part, also have not had a lot of substantive negotiations. They typically just start those later than we do. But yeah, it's mostly AFSCME, MMA, and MAPE at this point.
So that Megan touched on this a little bit too, but we've had some questions about like, are things around healthcare being bargained and how does that work? And so just naming, somebody just kind of explain where healthcare bargaining is at, including any, some proposals we have.
So I can start this one. So healthcare bargaining happens in a coalition, and that is all. It's separate from the main table negotiations. It's CGIP negotiations. It's all the bargaining units covered under CGIP. So there's, I don't even know at this point, there's 12, 13, there's quite a few. So we are in, I don't know, maybe third or fourth round of negotiating with them. MAPE, we brought some proposals that are still alive. We asked for a $5 reduction in copays. The SERP, that's the corrections retirement parity, is still on the board. Pete, you can jump in. You probably know more about the other ones, but we had like 4 that are still there. So we're still negotiating. We have agreed to some things with them. The main one being that we agreed to their out of area proposal, which changes coverage. It used to be a point of service for when you were outside of the service area in Minnesota. And now it's going to, it actually expands the benefit outside of Minnesota. So we did agree to that. And there's some other technical changes that we've agreed to. But like Megan had said, we bargain again with them tomorrow and Friday. And those are our last 2 sessions scheduled. So we'll see where we end up.
Thanks. And I'll just note it, since there was a couple questions specifically about this one, if you didn't hear, Kristen did say that the issue of SERP parity for folks who are retired with other bargaining units is still open at that table. I know some people have been bargaining for it in supplementals, so that is still a lot that is still going and being discussed actively at the healthcare table.
Pete, can I speak to that right now?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
There is a DOC action happening right now. If you work for the Department of Corrections, you are encouraged to call Commissioner Schnell and leave him a voicemail if he does not answer. Otherwise, have a conversation with him if he does, to support MAPE SERP parity, as it is 1/10,000th of the DOC budget. So anybody on the DOC or anybody, even if you don't work for the DOC and you want to support your DOC siblings, Commissioner Schnell is the target of an action that is happening right now. I had to do it.
Thanks. There was some questions about the legislative process. People had seen that a lot of laws and rules had changed, and wondering if any of those impact us or our bargaining. Obviously, the budgets impact us, but wondering if anybody has anything to say about other legislative changes and impacts on our bargaining.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm probably not the expert on this one. So Pete, Megan, Mike, Kristen, even anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I can start it and folks can let me know what I missed. But our lobbyist, Devin Bruce, is a mastermind, and he came up with some language and got a legislator to carry the bill that we called the Contract Approval Modernization Plan. And I believe it passed in the omnibus. But essentially, when the legislature approves the budget, that is their approval of our contract. They have set aside money for our contract. And so whenever in the past, when we would reach a tentative agreement, then it would go to the Subcommittee on Employee Relations and back to the legislature for a full vote every time, no matter what. And that was sort of like a double approval because they had already approved the budget, and they could only do a yes or no vote. There was no amendments. They couldn't take things out or agree to some things and not agree to others. It was just yes or no. And so it became a real political football. It became this really partisan thing that happened, especially in the Senate. So now when we reach a tentative agreement, that's it. I mean, it goes to our membership for a vote and you all can vote it up or down, but it does not need to go back through the legislature at all. It does not go to the subcommittee on employee relations. It does not go to the floor of either chamber for a vote. And that was the brainchild of our political folks that are on staff. So really amazing job in getting that across the finish line. That was another way that we sort of worked with the other unions because it impacted them. Also, we ended up writing them into that bill also. So the legislature approves the budget. We negotiate the contract. Our membership votes on it, and that's it. So yeah.
Also true for MOUs, which makes that a far more smooth, streamlined process.
That's right. Any agreements that we come to that would modify the contract for specific things also do not need to go through that process, which is great. What did I miss?
Great, thank you. Other people have just asked about other actions going on and if it's okay to contact commissioners or contact MMB labor relations folks. I'm wondering if anybody just wants to say more about the importance of membership action, other things, how do I feel about other ideas that people have, that kind of thing. Any of you want to chime in about that?
I mean, I can chime in and say, do it. Do it. You want to contact your commissioner, you want to contact labor relations, you want to contact the governor, do it. And if you want to get a bunch of people together to do that, that's even better. Do it together. Yeah.
Talk to new employees too, bring folks into the union. We saw a surge in membership after our last town hall. So it felt like you all went out and talked to other people about the work that we're doing to get a good contract. So do that again, bring some more people in, talk to new employees. I just heard that my agency, the Department of Administration, got like 50 new FTEs in this budget. They're obviously not going to be hired in time to vote on our contract, but talk to some people around you and make sure that they're part of this and that they can vote on the contract. Mike, Pete, do either one of you know the deadline to become a member in order to vote on the contract?
I don't off the top of my head, but we'll make sure to include that in the trainings starting next week.
Okay. There's a certain time period where you need to be a member in order to vote on the tentative agreement, whether you want to vote it up or down. And I encourage all of you to make sure that the people that you know that are considering being a member sign up so that they can have a voice in the process.
Thanks, everyone. And I just wanted to add in on the action question. There's a couple of questions about, people who have contacted their agency leadership, kind of hearing back that their agency leadership doesn't have anything to say about it or isn't supposed to say anything about it. We can't control what MMB sort of says to their agency leaders about how they should interact with us on it. And if you reach out, the action in doing it is important, even if you don't get a candid conversation with an agency leader. Don't think it does not have any impact. So it very well may be that they're not willing to comment or they're not willing to take the action you ask them to do in support of you, but that does not mean that the pressure and that the voice is not important. So I think we should just keep that in mind. Relatedly, some people have asked about sort of templates or those kinds of things for reaching out to the governor, reaching out to their commissioner, that kind of thing. And the general answer that we've been discussing about that is that templates are kind of a double-edged sword because they make it easier to fill it out, but they also make it more easy to ignore or not read through. And we want both members to be really thinking about what matters to them, and you all to be thinking about what you want to say, not what what I want to say or what Kristen would say, right? Like everybody should say what what your personal experience is and what matters to you, and then title it and send it in the way it is meaningful to you. That is actually more likely that it is paid attention to, is personal and is impactful. So say what's true for you, and take those actions with your commissioners, like with the at the governor's office, all those places. All of that helps to show how much this matters to members, and that shows to agency and state leaders that they can't just let this be, let this problem lie, that they have to solve this with us.
I'll say too, getting a lot of questions on agency leadership and whatnot. I think it's super important to engage with those people. And if you know your agency leadership is supportive, go and take a picture with them holding a sign that says, "I support MAPE's wage increases." All those sorts of things. The more leadership we have on board, the better. And the more leadership we have advocating for us behind the scenes, the better as well. Because they also know the struggle of recruiting and retaining new employees and talented established employees. And, they need those tools as bad as we need them. So more support there, the better. Also another, because I can't help myself, there's a DHS DCT action targeting their commissioner to support the SERP healthcare adjustment as well. Super impactful for the people that it affects and a small number of people. So a small cost to the agencies, hugely beneficial. So please reach out.
Thanks. So we still have hundreds of questions out there, but I don't think we'll get to all of them today. So please, if you have one that needs an immediate answer that didn't get answered, reach out to your negotiator. We will also be using some of these questions that came through as part of Q&A and things that are coming forward for more information. But besides that, then if you have a few words to kind of wrap us up, as we told people we'd give them, it'd be around 12:45. So we're kind of getting to that time now.
Right. So I can just jump in quick and say, thank you all for being here. For those of you that joined late, our ask right now is to contact the governor, tell him what you think about MMB's wage increase proposal, and to join one of our escalation strike trainings that are going to be coming out by email. Those details will come out by email. Yeah. Adam, if you wanted to wrap it up.
Yeah, so just one last point that I think it's important to remember, that the reason we ask you to do things and to come along with us is because in that room, we are only 25 voices. And while we have the most well thought out arguments, the best plans, the best proposals, we are just 25 people in there. That we alone cannot compel MMB to act and to back us and to give us the resources we need to be successful in this work. That comes from our collective power and our collective voice and our willingness to act in order to do that. So that's why we're asking for you all to take action here, is because with you at our backs, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? But we do need everyone here to have a conversation with a colleague or two, spread the word about what the process is and where we're at with the negotiations process, and to encourage them to take action, because with that, we then grow our power and our voice exponentially. And it is MAPE, capital M MAPE, that is really going to move the ball on this, and we need everybody kind of pulling in the same direction. So that's why it's important that folks act, go, spawn up an action, reach out to your negotiator or your business agent on things you might want to do, and help use that existing infrastructure to get people plugged in, because people want to act and they want to support this, especially if we are kind of giving them that avenue to do so. So, I think it's important to highlight why we ask folks to get involved and to continue to pay attention, and help us, so that our voice in that room is really amplified by the 16,000 of us that are also engaged and tracking everything. Cool. So I think that's it for now. The coming escalation trainings will be coming out. Keep a thumb on your emails for those. Bring a handful of people with you, and we will continue to update you as things move along. We will be in negotiations for a while yet, both healthcare and otherwise. So reach out if you have questions, and please continue to stay involved. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
guys.
Stay riled up.
Right. Thanks, everybody. We're gonna shut the webinar down now, and